You never know what the transfer portal has in store. Husker fans learned that once again this week. We will dive into it here in the next 60 right here on Huskers Live, right here at the Voice of College Football. Pull up a chair, leave those comments, questions there in the live chat. Consider supporting us here at the Voice of College Football. And of course, you got to hit the like button because, of course, Greg's here. Greg Peterson, Husker Online. Hey, Greg, what's going on?
Hey, not much. Just trying to get a lot of yard work done these days, but doing good. How about you?
Yeah, I got the lawn mowed through some raindrops on Sunday because for as beautiful as it was for about 2 weeks, it's been that nasty for about almost 2 weeks. It seems like it went from 90 to 40 and
Always
it's
does.
been in the 40s and 50s and dismal and drizzle and all that. So I looked at the forecast and thought, well, this lawn's not going to get mowed for the next 4 or 5 days because it's going to be pretty miserable. So I snuck it in on Sunday, and I do see down the line some 75s and 78s on the horizon. So it's about time.
My front yard looks like it just got shelled, like Utah Beach got shelled in World War II by the Navy. So we're trying to work on that.
Got shelled with what?
With artillery shells.
Just like the winter tore it up that much?
Yeah, well, the end of last summer with the drought situation and stuff, and yeah.
Well, let's go right into the transfer portal. And Casey Thompson, the starting quarterback last year, and the guy that was the big news this time last year because he was coming in from Texas after leading the Big 12 in touchdown passes, has headed to the transfer portal. That makes Jeff Sims the guy. And Casey Thompson, of course, still recovering from shoulder surgery and must have sized up his situation versus Sims and didn't find it too favorable.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of those surprising guys that jumped into the transfer portal here, which obviously, if you don't know, the transfer portal closed on Sunday. So, that's the final attrition going on, and there would have been guys still eligible if the paperwork had gone through today. So, we've gotten here to 6 o'clock Central Time, so that's going to be it for Nebraska. But yeah, I mean, Casey Thompson, a guy that obviously did not participate in spring ball, and like we talked about last week, that there's no allegiances to Casey Thompson here on this coaching staff. He was the guy that came in last year under Scott Frost, and but on the flip side is that Casey's really playing this perfectly for his sake. For if you think about the NIL going into this, he's worth a ton of money in NIL right now. And, there's always the door still open. He can always come back. But, if you would have asked me a month ago before spring ball started, I would have thought that would have been the time maybe that he would leave and get in the transfer portal because he was not participating in spring ball. And, now it's at that point where his name is out there and he's hoping to get on another, big Power 5 program. And if not as a starter, as a guy that's going to be in the mix, like if there's an injury or something. And he's already hearing a lot from SEC schools. So we'll kind of see how this plays out. But obviously, I mean, he knew what he was doing and, got involved with the Matt Rule system and everything. And I think he's testing the waters for what's best for him financially at this point. So, heck, you can't blame him for looking out for number one. So we'll see what happens. But it was a little bit surprising.
Yeah, a bit surprising. I thought that this was going to be a quarterback battle that was going to last through August. Well, actually, when Jeff Sims was signed, my thought was still Casey Thompson's a better quarterback. And then the more I heard about Jeff Sims, And not that I hadn't seen him play, because I did. And I really followed him at Georgia Tech, but it's not like I'm diagnosing every pass or anything. But the closer we got to spring practice, the more I thought, this is going to be really interesting to see between these two. And Jeff Sims obviously has the mobility advantage. And then considering, okay, Jeff Sims looks so, and I know it's only the one out of the 15 sessions, but he did look really good in the spring game. And thinking, okay, Casey Thompson didn't have the opportunity to compete. He's recovering from a shoulder injury. Then it still surprised me, but didn't surprise me as much as it would have earlier.
Exactly. And I mean, as the spring went on and Jeff Sims really emerged, that you can actually see that, I mean, Matt Rule brought Jeff Sims in for a reason. And that, Jeff Sims is a Matt Rule guy right now. And like I said, Casey Thompson is not. And, Casey parlayed his success he had at Texas and came into Nebraska. And, he's worth a ton of dough right now in the NIL market. So, yeah, I mean, I think that he saw the way that Jeff Sims kind of captured the offense and the respect of his teammates and everything, that he figured, what the heck, I'll go test the waters and I can always come back. The door's always open. So, yeah, I mean, read into it as you like, but that's the way I see it.
6 scholarship quarterbacks before the spring game, 3, right? We're down to 3?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you lost Logan Smothers. It was kind of funny, too, that Logan Smothers just puts out a tweet, "Thank you, GBR." So I wouldn't expect him to still be a guy in the running to come back. And, Richard Torres, we talked about these guys last week. And actually, I think you have 4. You still have Chubba Purdy and Heinrich Haarberg as well. So, yeah. Or no, that would be 3. My bad.
Yeah, I think we're at 3. Yeah.
I never excelled at math, but yeah, sorry.
All right. That's not why we got you here, Greg. Anyway, we can do the counting for you. Casey Thompson got a couple schools for you if you're listening, and I'm sure you are. Yes. Auburn, Florida. Those are 2 for you.
And he was reported to be in Auburn over the weekend too. So, I think there's already a leg up there with Auburn. But I mean, then you got to piggyback as another surprise. The latest, or at least on Sunday, was Ajay Allen. Obviously, a very talented running back that showed a lot of promise when he was still healthy last year at the beginning of the season, and then got dinged up and then missed spring ball as well. And I think you kind of have to look at that in the same light as well. That number one, that he committed to Coach Frost and to running backs coach as a freshman. And all of a sudden now the guys that recruited him are not here anymore. So, and younger guys are more susceptible than anybody, I think, in this process that we're talking about. That, older guys tend to be more committed to the school. And I'm talking about guys that have been here for 3 years or so. And, this doesn't affect Casey Thompson because he was only here for a year anyway. But, younger guys, they're more aligned to the coaches that recruited them. And I think, as he didn't get to participate in spring ball much because he had a concussion, and it really limited him early on in spring camp. And that, he's already getting, he's got SEC schools all over him as well. And that's too bad because, when you saw the flashes that he had last year, you thought this guy's going to be, 1,000+ yard rusher per year when he gets his shot. But, being limited in spring ball, and you saw how the other guys had performed, and you have 3 veteran type guys already in front of you. And, I think basically that kind of, put the writing on the wall for him is that, I gave it a shot. I don't really, I don't mesh with these coaches as much as I did with the old staff. So, I think that's probably his thinking in that whole process. And the other guy that really surprised me too was Stephon Wynn, is another guy that came in as a transfer from Alabama, and last year, he didn't play a lot last year, but he was a big part of spring ball and really had himself lined up as probably one of those starters, or at least one of those guys in the rotation that's going to get a lot of snaps. So, yeah, that one was kind of puzzling to me, but most of the other ones, not so much. And like we talked about last week, is that last week at this time, Nebraska was over the scholarship limit by I think 15. It was last Tuesday when we talked. Now they're only 3 over the scholarship limit, and we talked about that they need to thin out the ranks, and at this point last week, Matt Rule was here doing all his spring exit interviews with all the players. So you expected this to happen, and they're trying to weed out the scholarship players and to get a real roster assembled that they know they're going to move forward with.
Ajay Allen broke his collarbone in the Oklahoma game. Mm-hmm. So to start the season, he was getting a lot of reps and he was successful. 11 carries, 58 yards against North Dakota with a touchdown, scored a touchdown against Georgia Southern, 8 carries for 76 yards. And in that Oklahoma game, 11 carries for 49. So he was a main cog in the machine at that point, and unfortunately he gets hurt and guys jump ahead of him. Yep. So between Ramir Johnson, Gabe Ervin, and of course Anthony Grant, it's tough to break into that lineup.
And I think what you also saw in spring ball, that Anthony Grant and Gabe Ervin put themselves above the whole group, and not to discount Ramir Johnson, because I think they all have a really solid role here in this offense, when they start the season. So, we talked about this coming into it, that the running back room was a pretty darn loaded room, and you just can't make everybody happy. And if Ajay Allen sticks around, you're talking about 4 guys that could be the main guy, and there's not a lot of teams that have that going on. That doesn't work. There's too many mouths to feed. And that definitely has to have something to do with it.
Of us are on the internet pretty much all the time. It's fun. You get to socialize, you get entertained, and in this day and age, it's pretty much necessary. And even if you're one of those people that's not on the internet all the time, you know what is? Your personal information. And there are people out there trying to hack you all the time. They want your email address, they want your phone number, they want your place of employment, and they want to do bad things with it. There's also fairly legitimate corporations and companies that want your information. They want it for marketing purposes. They're going to buy it, they're going to sell it, they're going to trade it. At the very least, it's annoying to you. It's a nuisance, it's aggravating. Your email gets cluttered up with spam email. You get robocalls all the time. That's at the very least. At the worst, it's a threat to your family, to your friends, to your personal information, to your banking, to your finances, to your security, to your safety, to your identity. It can be pretty serious.
This video is sponsored by Aura.
I got hacked, and it was pretty obvious. This was about 8 or 9 months ago, and there were red flags all over the place. And I didn't exactly know what to do, but I knew I needed to do something quickly. I mean quickly. I researched 8, 10, or 12 companies immediately. I went all over the place. I asked people. I was online looking for the best company that could serve my needs and secure my information. You know who I found? Aura. And I'm glad I did. It was amazing. I contacted them. They got right back to me immediately. Their customer support is phenomenal. Their customer service is first-rate, friendly. They are detailed. They know what they're doing, and they do it right, and they will protect you. In addition to everything I just mentioned, they've got a password keeping service. They keep your credit score. They notify you anytime there's a possible data breach. This has happened to me a number of times. I'm getting notifications all the time when there's a possible compromise to my credit score or anything that I don't want. They've got a VPN that will allow you to browse the internet anonymously. It's amazing. And again, customer service support available 24/7. Click the link in the description section below and get 2 free weeks of Aura. Protect your finances, protect your information, protect your privacy, protect your identity. I did, and I'm glad I did. Aura, thank you so much for what you've done for me, and now for my Voice of College Football community.
All right, Greg, we're back. I know you thought that would never end. I didn't either. I've watched it a few times now. It seems to get longer every time, but there it is, everyone. So check it out, aura.com/MarkRogers. Get a 2-week free trial.
Who is that guy?
Who is that guy?
No, he warned me that was going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to happen right there.
I gave everyone a couple minutes there in the chat to think of a new topic and next thing they'd like us to hit on.
Now, now I'm all confused because I'm worried about my risk.
You can worry about that in about 45 minutes.
I thought the show was over.
Well, you mentioned to me before we started to record here that, and this is something that's been going on, I think it has really been concentrated in college football for about the last 15 or 20 years, and that's keeping relationships and ties to the great NFL stars that move on from your university, to keep that relationship, to make sure that you have that branding in place, and it's good for everyone involved, really. And it's impressive to the recruits, and it's impressive to boosters, and you want to maintain that relationship. And with Ndamukong Suh, it's not always been the best for whatever reason, but that at least without too many details, we at least know that there is some restored communication there.
Yeah, well, what you're mentioning is that Ndamukong Suh was on campus today, and that is significant because there's been a falling out in the last few years with, you got to go back. Suh is a Bo Pelini guy, and you've seen what Trev Alberts has been doing here, bringing back Frank Solich and mending fences there. And, Trev is this guy that was thrown into his role that he didn't create any of these, problems in this garbage that's been going on between former players and former coaches and stuff, that there's been animosity and, since all the coaching changes. And, now Trev is, he's inviting every single former player back, star power, and obviously, that Ndamukong Suh is a guy that kids still recognize and know that is one of the best in his craft that's ever been. So that's a tool that obviously Trev Alberts sees that he can use, and and quite frankly, I mean, if you're going back, most of these kids, they don't know much about the tradition of all these former players that went on to the NFL and were successful. I mean, there's a handful of guys they still know and stuff that are still active, but for the most part, it's kind of skipped a generation because you haven't been able to show that product on the field, and it just sends the message out there that for all you players that have felt ousted or former coaches and players that are not loved anymore, they are. And, you want to come back here and be a part of things. And you got to remember, too, that Ndamukong Suh is one of the biggest boosters in the program anyway. He puts a ton of his own money into supporting Nebraska athletics. So, hey, it's just a great message to send out there for all the young players that, are looking where they want to go, and obviously shows you the effect of what you can develop guys into to put them into the NFL. Because bottom line, all these kids that want to play college football want to go on and play the next level in the NFL. So, and Matt Rule has been a guy that's been very successful about developing those kind of guys at Temple and at Baylor, and both in short periods of time. I mean, 4 years at Temple and 3 years at Baylor, and he puts he's known for finding those diamonds in the rough, those 3-star guys, and developing them and making them, standout players in the league.
As Dan Beast Media mentions right here, and Ndamukong Suh could be a Heisman Trophy winner right now.
Yeah, I agree. He should have been.
Supposed to go to the best player in America, not the best player in America who plays quarterback or who handles the ball.
Yep.
And
it was an uphill battle, but I think everybody knows who the best player in college football was that year.
Yeah, I certainly believed that as well. Dan Beast Media and many, many others share that sentiment. I guess Bo Pelini's the next guy on my mind, and I'm not putting Bo Pelini in the Ndamukong Suh category. First of all, he's a coach, not a player, but obviously the parting of ways wasn't the best. But Bo Pelini, because I automatically thought, okay, Ndamukong Suh's coach, Bo Pelini, that we'll see if one day that those fences get mended.
And I mean, yeah, and if you're a Bo leaver or a Bo hater, either way, Bo Pelini is a big part of this program's history, and since his departure, Nebraska has never been the same.
All right, folks, we appreciate you being here every Tuesday night at the Voice of College Football, GBR. Please support the content any way that you can. One way is to hit the like button and also jump out there on social media and share the video. And comments and questions we are taking in the chat as well. And boy, it's about that time of year with spring practice in the books that I'll have to start. I'm going to look at last year's live streams and remember what we hit on last year is what I'll go to next and see what those shows topics were. And we'll start hitting some all-time.
I know that was the big topic that this time last year was, is Scott Frost,
well,
is he done, or
that was the topic.
How long is the leash on Scott Frost? Well, we found out.
Yeah, we don't even know how long the leash was because it was a couple chain links is what it was.
Yeah.
Because 1 and 2 and time to go.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Matt Rule's got a long stay, at least to the point where people are going to start people they count are going to start judging him that harshly. Do you remember the number of years in which Matt Rule's contract sits?
not off the top of my head, but
yeah.
I think it's 4 or 5. Something around. I think that's a standard. But I could be wrong there. I'm sure that's public information, so I'm sure it could be Google.
Oh, it's out there. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I guess I should have prepared to start one of our all-time series for this week. Folks, live chat, let us know what topics, like evergreen, off-season kind of topics you want us to hit on in the next few months. And, of course, stuff's going to come up. There's going to be more transfer portal stuff, hopefully, if Nebraska is able to get players out of the transfer portal. That can still happen. After we're going to lose anyone.
Yeah, it's closed right now, so, yeah.
But there will still be players available.
More than they want, I'm sure. a lot of those players, that's the unfortunate thing about the transfer portal is they think the grass might be greener somewhere else, and they sit and sit and sit in there, and they don't get any love. So you never know. It's a gamble either way.
Can you think of anyone who entered the portal for Nebraska and came back?
Oh, there's been plenty. Yeah, I mean, we've documented a lot of these guys. I'm sure the viewers can pull up names quicker than I can, but yeah, there's been quite a few. And I'm sure that's the same everywhere.
Here's a guy right here, not Yelly Belly, but the guy that he brings up, Arik Gilbert. Now, we didn't like what we saw. Nobody did in the spring game, but that was just a few pass targets, but it didn't look pretty. But he's got all the talent in the world. Be interesting to see if he is able to step up and become a impact player on this team.
Yeah. He definitely, he opens your eyes when you see him in person. I mean, he almost looks like an offensive guard out there playing tight end. And, during spring practice, I mean, he looked really good. And then in the spring game, I'm not sure if he was just going through the motions or what, but just didn't seem to be all there, in my opinion. I mean, it was kind of lackadaisical, in my opinion, of what I kind of saw from him. And I don't know, maybe he wasn't feeling good that day. I mean, it could be several factors, but obviously, yeah, I mean, he's a former 5-star recruit, and he's played at a couple of pretty good programs already, and is a huge target, obviously. And like we said last week, I was surprised even coming out, just seeing the team split up. Obviously, the white team was the number ones, and it was Thomas Fedoni and Nate Borkacher as the 2 starting tight ends, and Arik Gilbert was on the red squad. So I don't know, but obviously, yeah, you love having a guy with that kind of potential in your program, and hopefully he has a good summer conditioning and comes in ready to go for fall camp.
I'm looking at the transfer portal wire right now, and just in the last couple hours, Auburn has landed an edge rusher from Appalachian State who was all Sun Belt Conference. Surprise, surprise, Colorado lands a former 5-star Savell Smalls out of Washington. He's an edge rusher. So just to make everyone clear on this, yes, the transfer portal is closed, but there's tons of guys in the transfer portal. So there's still going to be news coming out of the transfer portal. And if it concerns Nebraska, it's going to be good news because it's just going to be guys that they sign.
Like I said earlier, that the transfer portal closed on Sunday, but there's still paperwork in the process and everything. And schools all had until today to release any of that. So that's why you get a couple in today and a couple yesterday.
I'm scouting for offensive linemen. That's the number one need, right?
I think every school in the country would say that. Unless you don't have a quarterback.
Cal just landed in the last 8 hours a Texas A&M offensive line transfer, Matthew Wyckoff, who started 9 games as a true freshman. Michigan State just had 3 of its players enter the transfer portal. They were able to pull one back, Charles Brantley, a cornerback, but they've lost or potentially could lose their starting quarterback, Peyton Thorne, and their number 1 wide receiver, Keon Coleman.
Yeah, those 2 were shockers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really were. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there at Michigan State, but yeah, those are 2 pretty big losses for that program.
If Nebraska was to get, I'll give you 2 slots, 2 players, not specific players, but 2 positional needs, what would you add? If you were Matt Rule, all things being considered equal, what two positions would you go after?
I would say offensive line and defensive line all day long. Yeah, you want to bolster your numbers there, and you just lost a defensive lineman that you thought you were going to be counting on this season too. So, yeah, those are the two biggest needs right there with when you look at the depth chart. Because you do have a lot of young, capable guys that are playing at the skill positions on both sides, and you really got to like what you have, as linebackers and as secondary guys. Even though you just lost Noah Pola Gates as well, but another highly touted 4-star that really hasn't ever done anything here at Nebraska. So, yeah, offensive line, defensive line.
Dan Beast Media, he has a topic for us. Is the 95 Husker team the greatest college football team of all time?
In my mind, yeah, but I'm biased. But yeah, I mean, the Huskers were the team of the 90s, right? And that was probably the pinnacle right there. But especially with, Tom Osborne, basically ready to retire. And, look at how many NFL players were on that team and some of the, years previous. But that was a great time. And, living in Lincoln, Nebraska back then, you were the kings of the college football world. And I still today, it's hard pressed to find a team that was more dominant and is always going to be brought up in the conversation. So, yeah, I mean, as a media member, you're supposed to be impartial, but I have a hard time with that one.
Well, Greg, at least you're honest, because here's my deal on being unbiased. I tell people all the time, nobody's unbiased. I don't think that exists. Now, there are people that are just barely biased because they try to eliminate all of it. And I try to be that person, but I'm not going to try to fool anyone and say I'm completely unbiased.
No,
because I don't think that's possible. You're human and you've got
the homer's going to
flesh and
come
blood.
out at some point.
Yeah. I'm not the homer type. I try to eliminate all bias and be neutral doing what I'm doing, but I'm still biased. It's just impossible to get rid of. And I will argue with anybody on that note. That said, I was scurrying to look it up, but I posted a video not long after Georgia's national championship win. Zoe, what's going on?
Get out of here.
Zoe, it's way too early.
I know.
Come on, give us 20 minutes. I lined up the last 4 teams to win back-to-back national championships. So Nebraska being the 4th of those, that was this last Georgia team, of course, 21-22, Alabama in 11 and 12, USC 03 and 04, and then Nebraska in 94-95. And I went through passing stats, rushing stats, defensive rushing numbers, passing numbers, total yardage against, points against, their schedules, how many ranked teams they played, went through everything. And it's a tough call.
Yeah.
They were all dominant in different ways. But that Nebraska team, yeah, they ran the ball just down everybody's throats and annihilated one of those 2 teams. And I can't remember which. I think it would have been the 95 team. Pretty much just didn't play a close game.
Well, also you got to think about the dominating defense that they had back then.
Yeah.
It was just chock full of NFL guys and wouldn't let anybody do a thing. And by the time you opened your eyes, Nebraska was already up by 4 touchdowns on you.
Yeah, in 1995. They beat Oklahoma State by 43. They beat Michigan State by 40. Arizona State, good Lord, 77 points on the board. Beat them by, I can't even do the addition, 49. 7 touchdowns. They beat Pacific, took it easy on them, 49-7. The Washington State game. Now, when I see 35-21, I got to delve a little bit deeper because that could be a blowout or it could be a close game that widened out. And I did look it up at the time and I don't remember what the conclusion was, but Mizzou 57-0. And then here comes some good teams, a top 10 Kansas State team that they beat by 24 points. They beat Colorado, the number 7 team in the country, by 23. Oh, man, they decimated Iowa State by 59 points. Kansas was a top 10 team. They beat them by 38. Oklahoma, their rival, they beat by 37. And then we know what they did to poor Florida in the Fiesta Bowl. Yeah, that was the year that nobody came close to them.
Yep. Holy cow, touchdown Tommy Frazier.
The year before, I think they had a close call or two. I might be wrong. Let's see here. I might be wrong.
There's always a close call.
West Virginia was a top 25 team. They beat them by 31. Then they went to Texas Tech, beat them by 26. They had number 13 UCLA. They beat them by 4 touchdowns.
Poor Pacific. My goodness.
Wyoming, 42-32. Again, when I see a score like that, I have to look a little deeper because that could have been a close game or it could have been 42-18 with 5 minutes left, and they gave up 2 garbage touchdowns. They wasted Oklahoma State. They had a fairly tough game with Kansas State. Blew out Mizzou. Pretty easy time with Colorado, considering they were the number 2 team in the country. Beat Kansas by 4 touchdowns, beat Iowa State by 16, Oklahoma by 10, and then the Miami game in which they came back and really wore them down, leaned on them in the 4th quarter.
Hey, bring back the old Big 8. Let's start doing that again.
Yeah. Yeah, those were fun times in college football.
Yes, they were. Yeah, if you haven't, if you're in the younger generation, and do yourself a favor, go back and watch some of those games. It was pretty incredible.
Dan Beast Media, Georgia has had 19 defensive players taken over the last 3 drafts. Every starter on Georgia's 21 national championship defense has now been drafted. Greatest defense ever, maybe.
Yeah, they were pretty darn good, for darn sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the Philadelphia Eagles know that, obviously, after this year's draft, this last weekend's draft. But, Georgia's taking over that spot. They're the dominating spot right now. And heck, it doesn't look like they're going to drop off anymore this year either. So, yeah, there's just been a lot over the years. I mean, styles change and, the top dogs change. And unfortunately, it's been 20 years since Nebraska was back in that conversation.
Dean, thanks for looking that up. I know that I knew that at the time, but I had forgotten. So, yeah, that was not as close a game as the final score would indicate. So Nebraska took care of Washington State pretty easily.
I was at that game. Or no, was I at that game? I don't remember. we always kind of took Pac-10 teams for granted back in those years anyway. Washington was always a good matchup, but
yes.
Yeah, Washington State, that was even hard to remember that even play in Washington State.
The game that surprised me was in the now I'm forgetting what year this was. This was mid 2000s, like 05, when they beat Washington in non-conference play pretty easily, very easily, killed them by like 5 touchdowns. And then they played them in the Holiday Bowl that year. That rarely happens.
They got beat.
A rematch, and they got beat in the rematch.
Yeah, that was a hard one to swallow. Definitely was. And remember when that matchup was announced that Nebraska fans just scoffed at it. It's like, why do we have to play these guys again? I mean, we've already dominated them once, and then look what happens. I mean, it's always, we've all known in the sports world that it's always hard to beat a team twice.
Yep.
And obviously that came to fruition that day. And that was not good. That was embarrassing to lose.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah,
I think they were a 2-touchdown favorite
at
in
least.
that game.
Yeah, at least. I'm sure a lot of people lost money on that game, in Vegas. Or maybe not. A lot of people maybe won a lot of money on it.
Maybe they took the points.
Yeah, exactly.
I tend to think there's a lot of people losing a lot of money on every game, practically.
I think you're right. Yeah. That's why Vegas is in business.
Well, Greg, what do you say we take a viewer call?
Hey,
I'm going to bring somebody on for a call.
Do it. That sounds.
Folks, here we go. You want to join the show? You can ask Greg and I a question or make a comment, whatever you want to do. The link is in the chat. There it is. All you have to do is click on the link. If you're familiar with our call-in shows over on the main channel, we do this 3 times a week. So you just grab the link, you can call right in, and you can talk to Greg and myself. Dan Beast Media, I had great respect for the 2018 Clemson Tigers, 15-0 college football team in a national championship in a playoff format. Greatest ever discussion. Well, Dan Beast Media, you've hit us up at the right time because May is Great Debate Month at the Voice of College Football. So we've got 2 already lined up. So listen up, Greg. On Wednesday night, 8:30 Eastern, we've got a contingent of Big 12 people. We got a contingent of Pac-12, and they're going to argue about all of this realignment talk and all these rumors circulating about whether the Big 12 is going to gobble up the Pac-12 or the Pac-12 is going to survive. So that's our debate for Wednesday night to kick off Great Debate Month. And then on Thursday at 6 Eastern, we're debating the greatest programs of the 60s and 70s. I had somebody approach me and they lined up all the information of the winning percentages and records and all of it for the 60s and 70s, and they wanted to present that. So that's where we're starting. I want to do a 97 Nebraska Michigan debate.
Oh yeah, the split national championship.
Yes, the last one.
Yep. I think that's what started all this talk of BCS and everything. Yeah. No, that's a good one definitely a good one to get into.
Yeah, I would like to pull that one together. I've got a list of debates. I've got all sorts of great debates to get to.
And I mean, bottom line though is that Sears Trophy sits here in Lincoln. That's all that counts, right?
Well, the Sears Trophy, meaning, was that the Associated Press?
Yeah.
And they got the coaches poll?
They got the coaches.
Michigan?
Yeah.
Okay. I never can keep that straight. I just knew it was split. Okay. All right. Very good.
That's what AP poll dominated almost everything back then too. So the coaches poll was basically not recognized the way the AP poll was.
You don't think so?
It didn't seem like it.
Well, I agree. People did. Any time that you saw a TV network reference the poll or
always be the AP ranking.
Yeah, when you'd see the scores of the games, they would use the AP rankings. Yeah. But technically they split a national championship.
Right.
But you're right. The AP was recognized.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. We gave you your chance.
Oh, no calls, huh?
nobody wanted to call.
Both lines are down.
All right, folks. Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football.
We should start a Mark Rogers telethon. How about that?
Yeah, so Never Mind Me is saying, I would love to call, but that StreamYard thing wants you to download apps and a bunch of other BS. Just get an 800 number. Well, you have to fund the show first. So we used to have a 800 number that cost like 12 to 15 times dollars every time we did a and so this is much easier. Plus, as soon as we switched to StreamYard, people said, well, that sounds so much clearer than a phone call. So it's not even debatable. Never mind me.
Yeah.
So we went this route.
StreamYard's a pretty darn good program anyway.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones that use it.
No, it's pretty
Put it
much
that
the
way.
standard now.
Yeah, it is.
All right. How often do we hear this one? This is about this is an every week question here. What is Greg's predictions of the number of games we will win?
How many are on the schedule? 12? Is that where we start with?
Yes.
All right, 6. How about that?
6 and 6. That sounds about right to me as it stands right now.
Exactly. Until I can see more and before the season starts, I'm going 6 and 6.
It sounds like that's going to get you headed toward maybe Detroit and the Motor City Bowl, or maybe New York City and the Pinstripe Bowl.
How about that? Can't wait to pay that bill. Detroit's a little cheaper.
One of those two.
Nothing against Detroit. I love Detroit, but yeah.
Hey, never mind me. No issues. We don't want you to do anything that you're not comfortable doing. So no issues there. So
hey, I feel that. Never mind me. I don't like downloading programs either. That, especially when you have to download more than one. But I'm an old man, and I just like things to be simple.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football, Nebraska Live. We come your way every Tuesday at 6 Central. So make it on back next week. Bring some friends with you, and hit the like button, please, on your way out. And we will see you all extremely soon. Wednesday, we got a big day with Ohio State, Oklahoma, Michigan, Florida State, and Miami. All right, Greg. Have a great rest of your week.
Well, try. Yeah.
And we will see you back here next Tuesday.
As long as the weather doesn't drop below 50 again, then I'll be fine.